All right, TD Finance brought to you by Top Deck Games. Hashtag not your financial advice. We missed a couple of weeks, but we're definitely on the trend right now of what's happening in the marketplace. Starting off with Magic Standard. If you look at the winners right now, it's quite interesting to look at. As well, we did see like some cards like Corey Steele and Stock Up, just blazing through the marketplace. But they seem to be stabilizing over the past week. Even like the most interesting card to look at right now in the loser side is the Mox Jasper. So it's sitting at $16. That's very cheap for a Mox. I would buy four copies at this point because that is a very cheap Mox to get at. Remember Mox Amber sitting at $10? Yeah, I remember the days. So if you get a chance to buy Mox Jaspers, get yourselves a copy or two or four. But looking at the winners right now, starting off with the number one, which is Into the Floodmaw from Bloomborough. It's an uncommon blue. Uh, return target creature an opponent controls if the gift was promised. Instead, return non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Why is this card going up to $6? Well, biggest reason is obviously uh, prowess. The Corey Steel Master Race is still kicking off in the metagame in standard. Not just standard, but all throughout the constructed formats like Pioneer and Modern. So is that Phoenix is definitely playing the double spell gameplay. So what a better way to beef up the deck than put Corey Steel, right? So they're definitely playing that. And then in Modern, Prowess is still a very popular deck right now. It's very fast and it's quite resilient. And Into the Floodmaw is one of the ways to answer those pesky permanents that can hate out the Corey Steel. So that's why. Uh, Moving on, we got Thundering Falls, another is it prowess piece right here to look at. $18. This used to sit at 10 if you look at the graph, but it's been creeping up ever since Tarkir came out. So obvious reasons, it's the prowess decks and even the Jeskai control decks are still very popular in the metagame right now. People are still picking up for the card. In standard you need like two or three copies. In modern you just need one copy just to fetch it, but even then it's still very powerful to fetch a surveil land, which is pretty good. All right, another interesting card to look at is Carsey Revenant, which RJ, uh, one of our top finishers that we've just interviewed earlier, mentioned as it was one of his MVP cards. It has Flying Death Touch Lifing. It's basically Vampire Nighthawk. But the biggest take of this card is the new mechanic, which is Renew, which puts a counter on one of your creatures, a Flying Death Touch and Lifelink counter, which is huge. So if you put it on a big creature like Sholdred, Flying Lifelink is already like somewhat unbeatable. Um, so that's why that card exists, even with just one or two copies, just to fend off the prowess decks. So it's already being used in Dimir midrange, but it's heavily used in mono black demons because it's much easier to cast. And you might see some sideboard technology in the Orzo Pixie, but it's mostly being used in standard. That's why the price is kind of going up there, almost getting up to $2. So right now, if I were you, I would pick a bunch of copies for this card. As long as it's still cheap, $2 is not that bad of a card. It's pretty decent, in my opinion. All right, looking at the sealed product of the week, or rather of the past 2 weeks, it's the Final Fantasy Collector Booster, which definitely sold it out very quickly, even before the spoilers. After the spoilers, it just spiked up. It's pretty much obvious. Like everyone's very hyped. Uh, from 550 to like 700, 27% uptick. It's because of one of the cards that they've revealed in the spoilers last weekend was the serialized traveling chocobo golden foil card. You can only get 77 copies around the world, which is insane. 77. They could have just made it 7,777 because, you know, just for flavor. But 77 copies is like an absurdly low amount of uh, cards to pick up in your collector booster. So if you get a like at least one of this, like you're pretty much good, right? You get your money back, and then you make some. So I'm estimating probably about around 1,000, maybe more, in USD. If you could get a copy of this, who knows how much it's gonna make. People are probably starting to get to crack the collector boosters, and then in the next couple of weeks we get the official release, because some of the content creators have access to some of the collector boosters. Maybe some of them may get lucky, but probability is kind of low. But if we get to see a listing, well, we will see the price eventually. So, and it's a very beloved character or a pet in Final Fantasy. So, that's why the price of the collector booster is going up. So that is the market watch for Magic. Let's move on to One Piece and Cardfight Vanguard. On to you, G Bros.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gerson. So here we go, going first with Monkey D. Luffy from OP09, the SEC version. So again, its on play is you may return one or more Dawn cards from your field and then draw one card, and this character gains Rush. So of course, it's only 100 yen at the moment. It's very cheap. However, because of P. Luffy dominating the current metagame, I will expect this card to go up in price because it is currently the best deck in the format, beating out UP Luffy and even GP Luffy. Next would be another Monkey D. Luffy from EVO2, which is the SEC. Uh, so this is a very strong card in multicolor decks, with the EN version even reaching 80 USD at this moment. So as more multicolored purple leaders are being released, expect this card to continue going up in price because it's just a very strong and top deck card. And lastly, of course, none other than another Monkey D. Luffy from ST21. This card is a rush, and when attacking, give up to one of your rested Dawn cards to your leader or one of your characters. This is currently at around 300 yen or around 150 pesos, but I think it's actually around 500 each in the Philippine market. So this card is only found in the EX starter deck red, currently being used as a 4-off in every red deck, being a strong generic rush card with a +1 Dawn. And of course, the EX starter deck's quantity in the wild is going down. So of course, this card will go up. So we will just wait and see if there is a reprint in the next PRB booster, which will be coming out within the next 2 months. If there is none, then I will expect this price to go up. So that is it for One Piece. Next is Cardfight Vanguard.
Okay, here we go. For Vanguard, it's Trick Moon. Despite the limit of Vylord in the Japanese meta and several months worth of new releases, the Sagra is still the best deck. People have been disposing their copies of Vylord in the English side as a precaution in case English Bushiroad imports a Japanese ban list. As a result, Trick Moon is now the most valuable card in the deck despite having 3 reprints. Next year is Omniscience Regalia Minerva. New support for Minerva has been teased during the Bushiroad Card Festival, which was last week, and Minerva has always been a popular deck and has had some recent tops despite the lack of support. As there is no information about the upcoming support outside from the art teaser, hold off from buying as we might until we have an idea on what cards might be used in the deck. And then lastly, it's Battle Sister Kokua. It was previously a very cheap card as few decks could use it, but it found recent hype as decks such as Alfred and Minerva could use it to its full potential. But then, despite the hype and the recent release of the Festival Collection, Alfred has not converted into any relevant tournament success, and Minerva is still lacking information as to be if it will be relevant. So only time will tell if this will actually hold its value, but as of now, its price is purely due to speculation. So that's it for Vanguard.
All right, thank you so much for that, G Bro number two. Let's move on to the next segment, which is Top Deck of the Week. All right. Oh, why is my face over there? All right. So, Top Deck of the Week brought to you by Top Deck Games. Starting off with Magic Standard. We just came back from RC Malaysia. That was last week, if I'm not mistaken. But we did catch on one of the RCs in Japan that had a very interesting, performance over the past couple of weeks, uh, or even in that general event. It's Orzhov Pixie. Uh, People thought that this deck might fall off in the metagame, but apparently it's a pretty good matchup with the prowess decks because that's basically the reason why you designed this deck is to kill that deck. All right, so how does this deck work? If you remembered Esper Pixie, you just play Pixie to bounce back your Hopeless Nightmare, which discards your opponent and loses 2 life. And then you just repeat the process with all your Pixies and the new card, Sun Pearl Kirin, to have this crazy loop of just tearing your opponent's hand cards apart. Like he can't play, and then he's just gonna have a bad time. And then to top it off, since you're playing Orzov, it's much easier for you to cast Temporary Lockdown, which is the key card for you in order to beat the Corey Steelcutter, fans. So if they play their cutter or their multiple cutters, you just lock down, you take care of their tokens and their cutters, and then later, or even if you exile your nightmares and nowhere to run, you can just bounce them back again, and then just creating that endless loop of just draining your opponent from resources and then just winning the game from there, slowly but surely. So as long as they don't get to go off. So the pros in this deck, it's very strong against prowess, obviously, and against aggro decks. Because all you have to do is just rip off their hand cards and just take care of their board. If they have multiple cutters, you can just slam your temporary lockdowns, and then that's pretty much where you go from there. And super repeatable value with Kirin with the enchantments, especially with Momentum Breaker, which is from Aether Drift. If they don't have anything on the board, they discard a card, and then later on you can even gain life from it if you get the max speed. So if you're a big fan of just bouncing all your creatures and permanents back and forth, this is the deck for you. Weakness is it's kind of weak to some of the rest of the decks. Like Domain is still existing there, trying to beat the meta game. If you run into that, it's pretty hard. They also have some enchantment hate on the sideboard, and they have their own temporary lockdowns. So you don't want them to resolve theirs first. Slow start, it can be punished if you have a clunky hand. So you got to be careful with your starting hand going off against the aggro decks because they could punish you if they're very smart about it. And then mana sometimes doesn't still doesn't go well. It is easier with the Orzov, but sometimes it just doesn't you know make it there when it comes to curving out, especially sometimes you just need the white mana to cast your Pixie. The pain lands help, but of course you don't want to start taking damage when you're tapping for mana earlier in the game because you want to reserve as much life total as possible, especially against the prowess decks or even the aggro decks. uh, and not a lot of finishers in this deck, as you can see. Shoulder is like one of them, and it's even shoulder is kind of slow in this metagame. So there you have it. Of course, final thoughts. Pixie, it's pretty strong deck if you want to like feel very smart about picking out the meta game, especially since Is It Prowess is still a very popular deck. This is the deck for you to pick up and beat your FNMs, your showdowns, especially since Final Fantasy is coming. We might see some shakeups, but I think this is still a pretty good deck to pick up, even in your upcoming RCQs, if standard is the format for that. Uh, and if you're just a big fan of just you know playing out, seeing your opponents complain when they run out of cards, this is the deck for you. So that is my recommendation and my top deck of the week for Magic. Let's move on to One Piece and Cardfight Vanguard.
Okay, here we go with Purple Luffy once again. I don't know why this deck keeps popping up, but it's another time of it showing its ugly face. So the Need for Speed once again taking the spot of best deck in the format. Purple Luffy players realize they can dominate the format by going faster and ditching all the unnecessary cards because all you need to win is ramp, ramp, and more ramp. So, of course, the cards in this deck, the Sorojuro, Bonclay, and of course the leader itself. Use these cards to ramp down quicker than your opponent and slam down these strong cards faster. And of course, your top ends, ditching the Luffy Taro and Big Mom 9 because you don't really need anything else other than big rush cards in Monkey D. Luffy Sec and 7 cost Sanji. And of course, for blocking purposes, Katakuri is here because it's a big body that can block. And of course, untap itself. So pros, ramp, and more ramp. Leader skill doubles as a card draw if you are low on hand size. Big rush characters in the form of Sek Luffy and 7 cost Sanji. And of course, you have events that can help with defenses, such as Gum Gum Giant and I forgot the other Gum Gum, but the zero cost one. Of course, cons uses life as a cost, so quicker decks can take advantage, such as red, yellow, Betty and Mono Red Zoro, and board control is backbreaking because you don't really have much card advantage other than taking your own life with the leader skill. So black can still break your board. So the Purple King is back. Players realizing that UP and GP Luffy may be fast, but not as fast as Purple Luffy in setting up Dawn cards because GP Luffy and UP Luffy are more of combo pieces in which they don't really have anything in helping them set up Dawn, and you need to draw into your Dawn setting up pieces, while Luffy is just there on the field and will help you set up your Dawn easily, and you don't really need to draw into Bon Clay. So that is the reason why Purple Luffy plays on the top dogs to reclaim the top spot of the best deck in the format. And as a very simple and linear deck, there isn't much for you to decide to dedicate in deck building because all you need to do is ramp and play big characters, unlike the multicolor Luffys, in which GP Luffy needs the specific cards because it doesn't have Dawn advantage. And for Purple Luffy, or I mean UP Luffy, you don't the effect needs all cards need to be straw hats because UP is very specific that it can only add the Straw Hat characters. So of course, it's the BDIF. Play it in flagship this May 31. And a lot of people are even memeing that for Gao, this where does Gao again? June or July, which is a 3v3 format. If you're not playing all three Luffys, then you're throwing the game. So the best team is Purple Luffy, GP Luffy, and UP Luffy. So that's it for One Piece. If you're not playing Luffy, you're not playing One Piece.
Go ahead, G-Bro number 2.
Okay, here we go for Vanguard. It's Dragon Tree of Advent Sephirogilla. So, what's new in Sephirogilla? Griffogilla has evolved into Sephirogilla, trading your late game explosiveness for more mid game consistency. The deck is no longer predictable with your turn 7 OT activation. In exchange, you get plus 25 power to the Vanguard and plus 1 drive when you attack. And since Sephirogilla is a nationless card, you can use it in whatever nation you think is best. But for me, the best version of the deck has to be Dragon Empire because of a card called Virina Esperidea. Virina Esperidea takes full advantage of your Vanguard's ability to stack Dragon Tree markers, which give plus 5,000 mark power on circles. So, as a restanding Vanguard, a rearguard, it gains plus 5,000 for each marker on that circle. So, you can get up to multiple attacks with plus 5k power boosts. So, the strengths here are the ride line doesn't require you to discard to ride, meaning you get to save your hand cards and you get to take advantage of the plus 5k power buff from your Dragon Tree markers. And combined with Varuna Esperidia, it will eventually wear on your opponent. Additionally, Sephirogilla's ability to Energy Charge 5 and gain plus 1 drive ensures you an average of an additional 2 cards per turn, allowing you to grind the game and slowly but surely beat on your opponent with your Dragon Tree marker buffs. So, what are the weaknesses here? Is Sephiroth is no longer has the security of Griffogilla's ability to easily close out the game with the ability to activate your overtrigger on the 7th turn. Also, it has no active win condition outside of stacking your markers and hitting triggers to push for damage. And since you need 5 markers to get the plus 1 drive buff, you need CBU, which means you keep taking damage early on just to get just to ensure that you get your buff activation. So lastly here is the final thoughts. Compared to Griffigilla, it is a bit boring, but it has a more consistent playstyle. And now you have the ability to stack your Dragon Tree markers, giving the deck a more grindy game to and an ability to close out the game. But if you are a fan of Griffagilla and the turn 7 OT activation, this might not be the deck for you. At is a very, very far cry from the Griffagilla of old. So that's it for Vanguard.
All right. Thank you for that, G Bro number two. Let's move on to the last segment of the stream, which is Judge Call. Take it away, Carl G. All right. Since it's been a while since we've had a judge call, I got a very spicy judge call for you guys. Starting off with an Oculus held by Joshua, and Hilkia is looking to scoop because he's got a bunch of manifest that are face down right there. There's like a three cards right there. So he's about to scoop because he sees that he's pretty much dead on board, and he wants to concede to Joshua with this board state. And then after that, they shake hands, says GG's, and then Joshua decides to pick up his cards and shuffles them. Here's where the problem comes in. Hilkia suddenly calls for a judge, saying that Joshua did not reveal his face down cards before shuffling into his deck. What is the appropriate infraction, penalty, and fix? You guys want to answer, or just want to go through it? All right, let's just go through it because it's quite complicated, if you ask me. So I found this judge call very interesting because yes, it can happen, especially with that card existing in all formats. So let's read at Comprehensive Rule 708.9. If a face down permanent or a face down component of a merge permanent moves from battlefield to any other zone, its owner must reveal it to all the players as they move it. So that is the rule number one. If you see a face down card, because you have to confirm whether it's a manifested card or a morphed card, especially if you played it from your hand. Okay, this is just a special case where Oculus cheats in multiple manifest cards, right? So what is the problem here? So the infraction that was given to Joshua is what we call IPG 2.3, which is a hidden card error that says a player commits an error in a game that cannot be corrected by only publicly available information. Since Joshua has already shuffled the cards into his library, he cannot tell Hilkia which cards that were face down he put onto his library. So Hilkia does not cannot check the cards anymore, which he should have had. The fix would have been so easy. Unfortunately, it was shuffled. So the penalty here supposedly would have been game loss, but people actually got pissed about this ruling before during the Tarkir block, where Morph was very popular back in the day. So there was a lot of excessive judge calls during this time. So they had to tone down the penalty into a warning. Okay, it could go different ways depending on how the judge handles it, but it's usually a warning at a competitive rules enforcement level. So, and then the fix here is it depends on the context of the situation. So, in the situation that we presented right here, Joshua already shuffled it. So there is no way for Joshua to reveal the cards that were face down to Hilkia. So that information is gone technically forever. So the fix here is the obviously no fix, like do nothing. If the set of cards that contain a problem no longer exists, there is no remedy to be applied. So that's the safest way for any judge to work on it. However, in the scenario where Joshua shuffled it at the bottom of his library, where they are still clumped together, which means he still has access to those cards. He can just reveal it to his opponent, Hilkia, and then that would be the fix, and the penalty would be reduced even further. So that's how, and then probably just get a reminder to play more carefully. The fix is a the fix is a power hug. Okay, okay. I guess that's also one of the ways to, just say sorry to your opponent. You got an infraction for that. But that is the judge call. Very interesting take. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this judge call, because it's been a while since we've had face down cards in standard. So this might come up pretty much often, especially even in modern, because they're playing Oculus, or just reveal the entire deck. That would be another option, but since the face down cards were the only cards that were needed of information, of course that would basically disrupt the essence of the game, I would say. I forgot how the judge explained it, but it's not necessary for the player to reveal his entire deck, because um, that would mean the opponent might, if that was game one, then the Helkia would have had more information about his deck, right? So that wouldn't be right in such a way to fix it. So best way is to not fix it at all, or if it's fixable, just reveal the cards and then just get a lesser warning. So there you have it. That is the judge call for Magic. Let's move on to One Piece and Cardfight Vanguard.
Okay, here we go. From a very hard one to a very easy one. So L attacks with Monkey D. Luffy ST21, or also ST21-014, resolving Luffy's when attacking ability, which says give up to one of your rested Dawn to one of your leader or characters. Can L give the rested Dawn to the attacking Luffy? Thank you.
We already saw the answer. So
I mean, I just clicked it. It was a
okay, it's okay.
mistake.
But can L give the rested Dawn to the attacking Luffy?
Okay, when attacking, give one listed on to one of your leaders or characters. It attacks with Luffy. Resolving when attacking to the attacking Luffy. To one of your leaders or characters. I would say yes.
Yeah, basically yes. Yes, that's the answer.
Okay.
Luffy is a character and hence a valid target for his own ability.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but I think it's. I just needed to point this out because a lot of people were asking regarding this specific Luffy during flagship last month, so I just needed to reiterate it because yeah, it doesn't say another, so you can target it. It can target itself.
Interesting. Right, and sorry for the bloopers right there. Let's move on to Vanguard. G-Bro number 2.
okay. Here you go for Vanguard. Anton's Vanguard drive is set at 0. When the Vanguard attacks, Anton does not perform reveal the top card of his deck for drive check because the drive check is 0. At the end of the battle, does Jetfang's effect activate and how much power should Jetfang have? So Jetfang says at the end of the battle, when your Vanguard attacks, if your drive check did not reveal any triggers, this gets plus 10,000. So basically, since Anton's Vanguard has a 0 drive check, he does not perform any drive check. So does Jetfang's ability activate?
I would say no, because he didn't do a drive check in the first place. So that would invalidate, the text right here from Jetfang.
Okay, so the answer here is Jetfang will have 20k
No.
power. So having your drive check set at 0 does not mean you don't perform it. It means you perform the drive check 0 times.
Oh.
So as such, it still satisfies the requirements. And since no triggers were revealed, it still gets the plus 10,000 power. So that's it for Vanguard.
All right. I guess that's fair. That's fair. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for that judge call. It was a very fun judge call. It's been a while, right? Anyways, that's it for today's stream. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next one. This is Bappa with the G Bros number 1 and 2. Signing off. Peace. Thank you. Congrats.